Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds Podcast. This is episode 127. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Caitlin,
Hello.
and we're back with some friendly encounters.
Well, let's go through our normal housekeeping
Oh my
information
God, I got
first.
so much to say.
Will you just slow your roll, dude?
All right,
Let's
hit him
start
with
with
it.
telling everybody thank you. Thank you for supporting us, whether that's on Patreon or going out on trips or just listening to the podcast, rating and reviewing it, sharing it with friends, whatever it is that you're out there doing to support our work. We really appreciate it. And to keep up with what's going on with us, the best way to do that is on our website, which is thewhalenerds.com. Or you can follow us on social media. We have Facebook and Instagram. They're both at Whale Nerds. And then you can also watch video versions of our episodes on our YouTube channel. So now that that's all the way out of the way, Slater, you want to tell them about your trip to Yellowstone or what?
No, I want to thank them all again. Yeah, thank you so much, for real, for all the support and all the different aspects of social media and reviewing and all that stuff. I do appreciate it. Now, let's get into it. Some serious topics going on here today.
Well, let's talk about sightings. And then, most of our sightings have to do with our topic for today.
These are our sightings.
Well, I saw other stuff while you were gone.
When I was in Yellowstone?
Yes.
What did I see? So did I whale watch right before I went to Yellowstone for a couple days, right?
I think so.
Yes. So, bing, bada, boom. All right. Long story short, there was like hundreds of whales in the bay. Like, okay, fine. Like 100 whales in the bay. And I had really epic trips since I got back from Tonga. Pretty much like all 3 trips before I left to Yellowstone, I had breaching humpbacks. And I don't think I really had, I think I had some lunging, but like very like side lungy, kind of like nothing, no vertical craziness, just some sporadic action.
Yeah.
But the whale watching has just been incredible. That basically, I don't even know, the day I got back from Yellowstone, I know I had like a really crazy day of, oh no, when I got back from Yellowstone, did we have killer whales?
I thought that was before you left.
Oh, that's what happened before I went to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
We had humpbacks chasing killer whales. And that was something that I had previously missed out on while I was in Tonga. The same thing, same family, right? The 51As.
Yeah, they had also kind of chased around the 140Bs.
Oh, yeah, it was the 140Bs that you guys had to action with. Okay, yeah, so I think it was like my second day back, and we had the 51As, and it was really cool because the humpbacks, it started off with like 1 or 2 humpbacks coming in to the killer whales. And then it was like, okay, now there's 3, now there's 4, then there's 7. And then some of us boats took like a break from the killer whales to like relieve some like, just give them some space because other boats are for sure going to come check them out. And then coming back, there ended up being like, I think right before we left, there was over 10 humpback whales chasing the killer whales around. Like it was literally, and the cool thing about it is the killer whales were like taunting them. Like they were peck slapping and doing tail throws. They were breaching. They were like just swimming upside down. And then they would like swim towards the killer whales and like away from them. And the humpbacks were just like in like it was almost like they were in pairs and they were in like a parade of just like following the killer whales around wherever they went.
Yeah, I think we stayed a little bit longer than you did. And by the end of it, the main group of humpbacks was in like a competition group of like 12 whales.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I heard from Sanctuary. They said like got up to almost 14
Yeah, there were
whales.
a bunch of whales like zigzagging, going everywhere for a while in 2s and 3s that were all just really upset and like charging around. And then by the end of it, most of them had turned into a competition group. And it was like, that's happened a couple times where the killer whales have gotten the humpbacks all fired up and then like a comp group breaks out and you're like, what is going on? Do you guys just have a lot of big feelings? Like what's happening?
See, it's so funny because it's also kind of similar, but also very different. It's like when common dolphins or bottlenose dolphins get with gray whales, the gray whales just start mating. And so, but like this is different because killer whales can kill humpback whales or, or at least kill their calves. And so it's like, it like riled them up and got them, and then the humpbacks are fighting each other.
Yeah.
like I want to kill this killer whale, at the same time I want to kill you because I want to mate with Flopsy or something. So, but you know what was okay? So something that was really cool it happened a couple days we had killer whales actually. But in that same day, the killer whales were kind of slowly making their way out, and they were also getting a lot of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got the photo or the video of the common murre and the killer like spy hopped with it in his mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see like blood dripping down.
It's so gross.
And then okay, so then later on towards the end of my trip, actually it was the end of my trip, I seen mola, like a bunch of molas, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I go for this mola." And then a big like just like water wave, like pressure wave comes up, but like no killer whale comes up, and I was like focused on the mola too, but I never saw the killer whale. It kept going, but it definitely like waked the mola. So then another one, I actually see the fin of the sunfish, and I'm filming it, and then I stop filming it, and a killer whale grabs it, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Then I called that on the radio because Pua was behind me, and I was like, "Dude, it just grabbed that sunfish." So then it leaves it, and then so I'm like, "Okay, I'm focused. I'm ready this time. I'm just gonna continue filming this sunfish," and it's barely sticking his fin out of the water. And next thing you know, two humpbacks come on each side of the sunfish, bubble blast, psh, and then I got scared and stopped recording. So like I still have like proof that they like went around the sunfish, the killer whales. Like, do you think they were protecting it or what? Like, I think, or do you think it just happened to be in their path while they were chasing the killer whales? You know what I mean?
There
Or what
is
are the odds?
one report of humpback whales like being upset when killer whales are targeting an ocean sunfish.
Really?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just so funny. Like, what do you mean the humpbacks went on both sides of that sunfish? But also the water is so it
That
was
the
so
water was really brown that day.
yes.
Really brown.
And that leads me to another thing that happened that day. You guys had that friendly humpback,
Yes.
and then it like went away from you. And Kate was like, "I think this whale really likes small boats. You should come over here." And like
Mm-hmm.
you guys left, and then I'm just sitting there, and actually just shut my boat off to see if it was like gonna come and like come around or come towards me. And I was sitting there waiting. It like never came back up, and then just whoosh, right next to my boat. And the problem is that the water's so brown. The whale was friendly, but I couldn't see it.
Yep.
So
That same thing for us when it was friendly
yeah,
with us. We
I
couldn't
could
see it.
you could only see it when like a barnacle was either
Yep.
like an inch below the surface or already breaking the surface at that
Mm-hmm.
point. And it was honestly pretty startling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oh dang, you're right. That day just kept getting crazier.
Yeah.
I went in and then Doug and I think Alice, I forget her name right now. They asked to go back out on my boat to try
Yeah.
to look for the killer whales. I go back out there. The killer whales are lost before we get there because the fog had like came
Rolled
through
in
and
all of a
went.
sudden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it like rolled through long enough just to make them lose the killer whales, and then went away long enough to open the whole bay up, but with no killer whales in it.
Yeah.
And we end up having a crazy friendly encounter, but same thing. Brown water, couldn't see them, completely
Yeah.
soaked Doug and his camera. I was live on Instagram, completely
With its
soaked.
breath. With its breath.
Yeah, with his spout. Well, it was like, and it was pretty windy, so it was a lot of spray. I think it's like the water on the blowholes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
the spout, but it was like
But it's not
he
like the
was
whale
soaked.
like kicked and soaked your boat. It was from the
No,
whale breathing.
yeah, that did happen too, but not that day. So yeah, that was just like I don't even know exactly what day that was, but it was a pretty good. Let me see, it was October 7th maybe, but it was epic. So yeah.
Yeah, the whale that got friendly with us and then got friendly with you on your first trip of that day had been friendly with us 2 days before also.
And it had a really pointy dorsal fin.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it looks like it's a young female. And it's cool because when she was friendly with our boat, she laid underneath it like across the width of the bow. And you could see her tail and her head on each side while she was laying there. So it kind of helps you like estimate her length because like the width
Yeah.
of the high spirits is like, I forget, we measured it, but it's like 17 feet or something.
That's what I was thinking. 17.
And then she was like obviously under it quite a ways. So then you have to account for like the distortion of water. But she was a pretty small whale. Like
science.
she's probably under 40 feet long. And yeah, she was just like flirting with the boats for a couple days there, which was pretty cool.
And then while I was gone, I think you guys had killer whales another day, right? While I was in Yellowstone. For sure you did. I remember seeing it. You also had tons of friendlies and breaching, I think, too.
Yeah, we have had lots of really good humpback whale action, and we've had a
It's been
few Risso's
amazing.
dolphin sightings, but not many.
But
Yeah, I
like
think
no lunging. You gotta,
No, not really any surface feeding. I mean, we haven't hardly seen the bait at the surface either, though.
yeah, it's all
So,
down.
um, yeah, I think we had the 140s one of the days you were gone, and we were going to a group of humpbacks, and like something weird caught the corner of my eye. So then I started looking around in binoculars, and I was like, oh shoot, there's like killer whales in the middle of this humpback and sea lion feeding frenzy. And like for a while they kind of looked funny and they were like all spread out, I think just because of the light and how like sneaky they were being. And like no, the sea lions and whales were not reacting. And so we were like, what is the deal here? Like, are these transients? Why is nobody panicking? And then all of a sudden the sea lions started panicking. And when all the killer whales came up together,
They're silent.
we realized that they were the 140 Bs. And so,
Did they go after sea lion?
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And then after we got some pretty good looks at them, of course, all the boats came over. And so we went and looked at a big group of Ristos dolphins, and then came back to the killer whales, but then the killer whales were being really sneaky and they ditched us. And so I think all the other boats got better looks than we did, even though we were the ones that found them.
It happens a lot.
I know. And it was tough because like the killer whales were going towards this big group of Rizzos. So we thought, okay, we'll pass off the killer whales because they're gonna catch up to us, and we'll go look at this big group of dolphins. And so we were trying to have our cake and eat it too. And then the killer whales turned around, and then started to get really tricky. So, and then we had another like kind of weird group of killer whales. We had 49C and her calf and 122D and her calf. And both of those females are from totally different families. And their families like exist still. And they were with each other with their calves. Wow. I don't know what that was about, but they were really difficult to watch.
And that was while I was in Yellowstone?
Yeah. And it's interesting because when they came almost all the way into the mile buoy at Moss Landing when we were following them. And the killer whales kind of zigzagged around some kayakers, which was cool to see because you could see like even though they're females, like they're as big as the kayaks, you know?
Yeah.
And then two humpback whales, two of the juveniles that had been hanging out in front of Moss Landing, kind of came over and started to get a little bit fired up, and then got friendly with our boat and like rolled upside down next to our boat. And so then we couldn't follow the killer whales because we had two humpback whales.
They are just like, and like it's kind of like at this point, I don't like we call them friendly whales, but it's like, I mean, they're obviously being friendly. They don't do anything mean, and they're very gentle, and they're very like aware of how close they are to the boat. But it's just crazy. Like it's just happening so much lately.
Yeah. And then the only other day we saw killer whales, it was like the 39s or whatever, and they were horrible to watch.
Yeah, I was there with you. Okay, so also right before right before I left Yellowstone, you guys had lunch feeding in the afternoon one of those days, and I missed it, and it was really good. And then the next, I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna get any lunch feeding before I leave. And I was like, because at this point, it's like lunch feeding could slowly go away and not happen anymore of the year. But then again, I had it last year and on Thanksgiving, so it's also not true. But we haven't had like a crazy lunch feeding year, I wouldn't say, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did on October 12th, the day before I went to Yellowstone, I had a really good lunch feeding by myself. And I called Kate on it, but she was like, I'm not going to stress. If it's happening when I get there, I'll get there. But she ended up finding like something else. Yeah, but so what happened when I got back from Yellowstone?
When you got back, you had a couple really good evenings out on the bay when you got back.
So but I'm trying to think exactly when I got back, something happened too. That's what I'm saying. Like every day there's been something pretty. Oh, I think just Margot and I went out the day I got back, actually.
Yeah, probably.
For fun. And then the next night, did we go out?
Yeah, I think so.
So we had humpbacks breaching at no. I went out with Margot at sunset. We had those two whales that were lunch feeding.
Yep.
And then we ended up leaving them because I wanted to fly my drone. And so I went 5 miles out, flew the drone over. There's no name for that calf, right? It's like not Nitro.
The rubber chicken one?
Yeah, that one. Oh, wait. Maybe it was Nitro that I flew over. Anyways, super funny. I'm flying the drone. The calf is all wiggly all over the place with sea lions, rolling around, just like dancing around. And then it dives I'm telling you, there's no like there's sea lions in the whales, but they were down. Like the mom and the other one were down for like 5-6 minutes every time, so they're definitely feeding deep. This calf goes down. I think nothing of it. I'm just leaving my drone, waiting for all the whales to come up. Boom! Massive like school of anchovies. The whole water like is glistening and shining. And I hit record, and I got the tail end of the mom and the escort feeding, and then the calf does this like breachy lunge. I actually do have the video of it too. And yeah, so then like that happened. I wait, maybe I'm like, oh, maybe the bait's gonna stay up. I actually bring the drone in, and then I was like, I'll just film it topside. I really like to get the lunge feeding from topside. I think it looks crazy.
Mhm.
But it never happened again. In Jackson, we passed our lunge feeding whales to Jackson. So they breached they were lunge feeding from when we got out of the harbor for like over 2 hours. We got back. It was just 2 whales with sea lions, but they weren't feeding like right next to the sea lions. So it was making it difficult. It was like somewhere random near them,
Mhm.
but like, they were affiliated probably more so underwater than they were at the top. But yeah, lunch fed all the way until sunset. And then we had to go in because we had a dinner thing to go do.
Mhm.
But boom, beautiful. And then the next night, same thing. We went out with you. And what happened?
That whale. Well, we were trying to decide what to do because we kept seeing random surface active whales, and then when we'd get there, they'd stop, which is
Yeah.
also like the name of the game. A lot of days is like if you take the bait, you usually get screwed. But then a pair of whales started breaching, and then head slapping, and then breaching, and they did that for like at least a half hour.
Yeah. And
And
I wasn't even going to go. So basically, we had some active whales had brought us all the way back into Moss.
mhm.
And then I don't know, what'd you say? Like maybe a mile behind us, Margot saw a breach. And
Yeah,
then I was like, well, if it does it again, we'll go. And then I think it must have done it again. And I was like, I could like pass on driving back out because it was kind of bumpy, I think, too,
yeah,
right? It was
yeah.
kind of bumpy. And I was like, I could pass on going back out to sea for it. And then Margot was like, no, let's go. And we got out there, and we literally were able to just idle out to sea pretty much. And they were just breaching and chin slapping
Yep,
the whole way out,
yep.
basically again into sunset.
I love that head slap move it kept doing because it would get the water to kick so
Oh,
high and then it would
yeah.
kick its tail in the air. That was so cool.
No, so like when it landed, it basically like it's like when you put your hands in the pool and suck it down,
Yeah,
and then it would shoot a big,
yeah,
like spout out, and then the tail would already be fluking, so the water would be landing all over the tail.
yeah,
I
yeah. It
have
was
that on
cool.
video. Um, and then the next day was actually tons of whales, but in the morning, but like no action. And you guys went out for fun that day.
Yeah,
So there was like tons of whales. Oh, it was very annoying easterly
east
wind.
winds were bad.
Yes,
Yeah,
really annoying. And so we came back in like and got out of the east winds. There were like tons and tons of spread out humpback whales, but the same thing everybody was saying is like we have whales, they go down, and then they just kind of stay down. And the next thing you know, you're like looking at a different humpback that wasn't there
mm-hmm.
before. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way I see it is like they're just swarming underwater, and we're
yeah,
like seeing a bunch of random whales.
yeah,
And so we went back in for lunch, came back out. You guys were actually still out there on
yeah,
your fun trip, crew trip.
yeah.
Um, and then you guys had those 2 friendlies.
Which turned into 4.
Yeah, and that was amazing.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. So we went out. Kate and I had been hearing a sperm whale on the hydrophone for days, and we thought that the weather was going to be a lot nicer than it was because those east winds were not forecasted very well. So we just kept going offshore. I mean, we saw Nitro and LaFleur, the mom, and they were feeding with Lefty. And when we first got on them, they were kind of fun. Mom was doing some tail throws. Lefty did a tail throw. The calf was being playful. But then they all calmed down. So we passed them off to you, hoping they'd
thanks.
stay active, but they didn't. And then we went way offshore. We went out to like the 06 line or something. And it was same thing. Like we'd see whales and like they'd just be down a long time, and then they wouldn't be up at the surface very long. So we couldn't even get their fluke IDs. We were just like, dude, we're out here trying to do something, like, just look at something and maybe get a little bit of data, and just wasn't working out. And then the Rachel Carson was out working on the hydrophone, and so we just bailed on the plan to keep going all the way out there. And the hydrophone hasn't worked since, so I don't know what happened.
Oh
but
no, really?
yeah, I think they broke it. and they're probably doing some like regular maintenance on it, but we had been hearing sperm whales. So that's why we wanted to get out to like at least the 06 line to see if we had a chance of finding one, but no dice. But yeah, we had just like a really tough time with humpbacks the whole time. We just kept cruising. We probably saw like 50 or 60 of them, but got like 5 IDs. I'm not even exaggerating. Like we got like no data. We did see a new mom and calf pair that we hadn't seen yet this season. The mom's name is JoJo. And then as we were coming in, the whales all started getting active right when right when you were coming back out. They were all breaching around everywhere.
Yes, everywhere.
And so we were trying to figure out, we're still a couple miles away and we're like trying to set our heading, like which whale's going to stay active, because there was like 3 different ones. And so we finally pick one and we go there and it keeps breaching. At one point it breaches right off the stern. Like the photo I have, the ladder of the boat is in the frame because it breached so close behind the boat. And then they got friendly. And I was like, what the?
So weird.
Went from super active to just like friendly all of a sudden. And they were friendly with the boat for like at least 25 or 30 minutes before 2 more whales came just like beeline straight at us. And we thought maybe like that was going to ruin it. And like the 2 whales were going to take off.
Yeah.
Because the 2 whales that had been friendly came up and kind of like pushed the whales out of the way at first. And then it seemed like they had some sort of meeting down there. And then they all got friendly.
So weird. I guess I can, well, let me just get past that evening, because that evening was like one of my favorite evenings I've ever had in the water. So that night, you guys had the friendly whales, and all the whales start breaching. While you're watching the friendly whales, I'm talking to Kate, and she goes, take these friendly whales away from me because I want to watch your breacher. And I had a chronic breaching whale that we were able to like line up any shot we wanted with. Like,
we kept hearing, like, we're looking down and we kept hearing the splashing and we were like, ah.
Yeah. And so Kate is like, Slater, you can have these friendlies. Come over here and take the friendlies. And so I was like, no, I really want this breacher. And so, so that whale breaches, then it stops. And I felt bad because Kate finally, like, your friendlies left, and then it stopped. And then, but it's like another whale. Oh, so then right then we had a new whale actually. And it breached a few times, but stopped for Kate. That was a second whale that we had breaching. And then you guys got in, and then another whale started breaching, and I called Kate, and she's like, I'm over it. I'm not coming back out. I'm tired. And then you guys ended up having a whale breach by the harbor, and you were driving, right?
Yeah, Kate wanted to go walk around and stretch her legs on deck, so I drove the last bit on the way in. And I mean, we only got like maybe 2 looks at it really close. It breached like in the distance while we were driving in.
Yeah.
But it's funny, it breached like 3 or 4 times and then it pooped.
Oh, like, that's what you said.
A lot. And then it did a tail throw and then it calmed down. So we kept going.
So it's just clearing out the system.
I think so. It pooped for like 100 feet at least. Like it really had to go.
And then it got to that point where there was like no active whales, and then all of these whales were around. And I swear to you, you're like watching a whale, it would go down, and then you'd be like, okay. And then you would see like a quarter mile away, you'd see like 3 blows together. Like, okay, I'll go check that out. Then they'd split up. Split up. Then finally we found this group of, I thought it was 3. You're right. It was 4, a group of 4 whales. And one of them I know the name of, and I can't think of it right now. And they were all like just riled up with each other. Like it was like this comp group thing, but they were with sea lions. And then I was like, oh, maybe we're going to, and then all these whales got together, like 10 whales. Then they all went opposite directions. Like I thought we were about to be in the craziest feeding frenzy of our lives. Nothing came of it. So then we're following this whale, and now the light's starting to get like, we're like about an hour before sunset or something.
So golden hour.
Yeah. It's like starting to get nice. This whale starts breaching, and then it's just us on the water and Bill. There's no other boats out. So Bill is 4 miles away from me. And so we have this whale breaching, and then Bill goes, I'm pretty sure these whales just lunge fed. I'm going to go over there. And he gets there, and my whale's starting to do these like breaches, and we're like, some reason just able to line him up with the sunset, put him right down the beam, of the light, like right down the center of the horizon. And it's going, then it would like do 3 or 4 breaths, fluke up, and then like it would take a while before it would breach, but it would still be in a straight line. Well, at this point, Bill is calling me. He's like, Slater, they've lunge fed like 5 times in a row, back to back, And he's like, and one of them was like 7 at once. And I was like, oh, but like, do we stay with the breacher because we're already
Mhm.
here? And if it's active, you might as well stay with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
leave something to find something else.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't
you know what
leave
I mean?
something good to hopefully find something
Yeah, or like, yeah, and
better.
his whales
Yeah.
could stop. It's 4 miles away. So,
Yeah.
and then Bill keeps saying, it's lunging again, Slater. And then he
He's
goes,
trying to tell you, like, get your butt over
no.
here.
So then he's like, Slater, I'm not a photographer, but if I was, I would think that I could really set myself up for a great shot right here. And I was just like, and then I was like, Steve, if this thing doesn't breach right now, then it just like settled down kind of randomly. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it did its normal rotation, and then it fluked up. I was like, if it comes up and doesn't breach, we're bombing it out there. It didn't breach. I don't even think it came back up. It just took forever. We left. It was 3.9 miles. They were at 43 exactly and 57 exactly. We get there, like a massive lunge. I miss it because I was like just settling the boat in. Steve got it. It's like 6 or 7 whales, but then it like went from 6 or 7 whales to like 5, and then it went to 4, and it went to like a group of 3, and then a single. But literally back to back to back lunge feeding. Like, and
Nice.
not the stupid single, but the single that was doing the breachy, like super powerful fast lunge was not with the trio. And
Mhm.
I was just like, I swear if this whale messes up this lunge fest, because he was going like sideways where they were all
Yeah.
going straight, and like it's like
Mhm.
he was almost. But there had to have just been so much bait there, it didn't
Yeah.
matter. And
Yeah.
I don't understand. There's no way they could see the anchovies, like, like I don't get it. And there's no way there's like these sea lions. I don't know how they're getting out of the way. You can't even see the water. It's just dark at this point. You know what I mean? Like I'm later into the sunset feeding fest, but I don't know. Back to back. I honestly haven't seen lunge. I've seen lunge feeding at sunset, but nothing this consistent in many years. And with that many like whales, you know what I mean? Like a solo
Mhm.
whale, but it was cool to have 4 come up at once. Um, Still need to chase like a 13 or 14 lunger. I don't even know how many
Oh my
from like
gosh. That happened
2016.
one time.
It could happen again.
That's true. It could happen again.
Anyway, it's like one of the best, for sure, one of the best sunsets in my life. And because that whale, although it was like breach lunging, it looked like he was like falling from a breach. So you kind of got the best of both worlds. Like we knew he was feeding, but it also in the photo it could look like he was breaching too. So, and then I was able to get video and like, the whole ride home we're just so amped, and we're watching these whales as we're leaving. Like, and it's like I cannot believe we're leaving these whales, and they probably lunged into the darkness, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I would
why
think
not?
so. Well,
So they
that one night
obviously.
that you, me, and Kate went on your boat, we were watching whales by
Oh yeah.
moonlight at that point, and they were lunge feeding.
Yeah, remember we were driving by and the
Yeah.
ones lunged.
Yep.
So that was incredible. And then the next day we go out in the morning, and Steve's local, and he comes out on my boat. He books my boat a lot, and I look over at it and I'm like, it's super bumpy. Like
Yeah.
it was like still no wind, but it was very close together and just like
Yeah.
lumpy, right? And
Yeah.
so I looked at him, I was like, you want to just go in? He's like, yeah, let's just move this trip to another day. Like we had already done a full like 10-hour day of
Yeah.
whales the day before. Some stuff we'll like probably not see again for a long time.
Yeah.
But then yesterday was amazing too.
Yep.
How?
Well, I mean, there was definitely a lot less whales yesterday than there has been, but we had very high
Still a lot though.
quality over quantity. So, I mean, there's
Quality.
still quite a few whales around, don't get me wrong, but it's probably half as many as there were the days before.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two whales, I mean, you could start it from your perspective because you were out there before
True.
we got to you. We were following another whale that joined you.
So the first thing that happened to me was I found this whale, and it was just cruising actually, and then I saw another whale south of me, and you know what it did? It like sloshed his tail at some sea lions, and
Mhm.
it caused a little like splash forward. It wasn't like a tail throw splash, it was just like a light.
Like a swish, like a tail
Yeah, and
swish thing. Yeah.
it knocked some water in there, and I was like, oh, this whale maybe it's active. Let's go like down here and check it out. And so
Hmm.
when I get there, it was doing exactly that. It was just sloshing its tail back and forth with some sea lions. Um, and it was like trumpet blowing and not really like, I don't know. It was like just pissed off about something. It was just mad at the world.
Kind of fired up at the sea lions.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
weird. And so then I see so then I'm kind of hearing that there's a lot of whales to the south. Scott was calling out some whales down there. And I was like, okay, well, everything's probably just on this line of 53, between 53 and 54. We'll like work our way that way. And then I see a trio. And I also noticed that like 3 other boats are by Scott. And I was like, I'm just gonna check out this trio before I go down there to like the
Yeah.
10 spread out whales.
Yeah.
Well, the trio, well, actually it was 4 when we first got there. They were all being competitive.
Hmm.
But what was awesome is I was able to stop the boat and they were being competitive, but when they were going down, the 2 sea lions were staying with them. And they were like, it's like they had a rope tied to them and they were only staying within like, 200 yards of the boat or something.
Yeah.
So they never went far. So I was able to sit there and then like wherever the sea lions were, the whales would come up.
Yeah.
Well, eventually they broke off from the sea lions and then it became, I think, 3 whales. And that's when I called Kate and I was like, I think one of these whales that you have is over with you now.
Hmm.
And I don't know, it was breaching or something maybe.
It was
Or did
like
one breach?
it was like doing those tail sloshy things. It breached
Yeah.
one time. It was doing a little bit of flipper slapping, and it had like 4 sea lions with it. And I think the sea lions were like bothering the whale because it kept trumpeting and stuff and rolling around.
Yeah. So then it becomes 3, right? And I'm like, I don't know why I was gonna leave them. But so I sat there because I didn't know where they were gonna come down. And then it was like they're starting to stay down for a while. And so right when I put the boat in gear, all 3 of them come up right next to me, like not like right next to me, but like I don't know, 80 feet off my starboard side. So I put the boat in neutral, and then they go back down. Like it was like up and then back down, like they didn't take a normal cycle or
Yeah.
sequence. And so they go down, and I'm just sitting there. And then the sea lions like kind of start turning around like some other sea lions like popped up with them, start coming around my bow. Then I see the whale turns. I just was like, oh, shut my engine off. And I'm like, come on over. And then that was the start of the most epic friendly encounter.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy one. So we noticed that your whales are starting to get friendly, and like some of our passengers are starting to be like, wow, that boat's really close to those whales. And I was kind of like ignoring them and trying not to address the question because I knew our whale was going to you. So once we got within like 300 yards of you, I was like, okay, some of you have noticed that the whales in front of this small boat by us are really close to it. Those whales are being curious about the boat and they're investigating it. And so we were like, and our whale is going that way. So this could get pretty interesting. And we had the 2018 calf of a Kimbo. I guess that the year that whale was a calf, it was seen a lot in Monterey. And so then sure enough, like we get over towards you and our whale goes to your whale and they both start circling your boat and stuff. And those other 2 must have peeled off like right as that was
2
happening.
left. I have a video. My like first video is 3 whale, like is the one that was friendly, Vishnu. And then there was 2 or 3 other whales in the background, like in a row. And then 2 of them left. And I don't know if it's the one that you brought over with white peck fins, but that's the one that stayed with the whale.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny, like this whale, oh man, it's just crazy. It's like it's always like the first time it comes up because it's like you can run around and keep looking in the water, but it might come up off the bow or off the stern.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
it comes up and it's just like, oh, there it is. And
Yeah.
but then it's just like head on with the side of my boat
Yeah.
so many times. And then a lot of the times its head was just on like my starboard or port side, and its tail was way off out
Yep.
on the side of
Yeah.
my boat somewhere.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
funny to watch you and your passenger like run
run
side to
back
side,
and
and you're
forth.
like, "This is its head. This is its
Yeah,
tail."
like its tail's over here. Well, then all of a sudden the tail is like in the air, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, where's the head?" And I'm like, "The head's right here on the other side of my boat." It's just amazing because it's. I was talking to Kate on the phone about it. Like, it's good to still be like somewhat fearful, right? Like, because even in
Yeah.
like an accident, like it's a big, powerful whale,
Yeah.
but then it's so like spatially aware. Like this
Yeah.
whale lifts his head, could easily just touch my boat, but then it just turns it a little to the left and sinks it down inches from
Yeah.
my boat.
Yep.
And you're like, and I don't even understand because if it's creating all the water tension at the water by sloshing its head around,
Yeah.
there's no way it's looking up through the water, but it might be looking at the hull. It could be seeing the hull of the
Yeah.
boat. It's
Yeah.
like, how does it not hit the boat? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool to see the whale exhibit that much body control around you and be able to have our people watch that first before it came and did it to us, because I was like, look at how close this whale is and it hasn't touched the boat.
And then yeah, yet.
Yet.
And so like, yeah, oh my God. So here's the thing though. I'm like, oh, I'm getting my wide angle. This thing is friendly. Like I was just using my cell phone for the beginning, and I was like, I'm gonna switch my wide angle. I literally open up my cabin, and as I'm unzipping my backpack, I turn my head in the thing. And I think this is right before you guys got over. It is spy hopping up over like way above my head. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, damn it! Like I'm so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like had I just had my cell phone out for 2 seconds longer, I would have got a nice, beautiful spy hop next to the boat.
Yeah.
So then I switch it over to my wide angle, and then I just looking at it, you can see his eye sometimes in the water. It would like roll on its side a little bit, but it's just sitting there, head right next to the boat so many times. But then it would like leave and go away from me a little bit. Like they would do a little hot lap. And then it's like you're still sitting there because you're unsure until it can like actually leave like 100 yards away or something. You can't really move. And so and then next thing you know, it turns, it's head on with the boat again, coming right at you. Like it almost just seems like full steam ahead, and then it just stops right at your boat, and it's like lifts the chin up a little bit. You could like pluck a barnacle off and then puts it back down. But what's so cool, the very end of the encounter, the whale's head was there, and then it went under my boat and just sat there for a second. It lifted its back up, I guess. You could feel it and hear it hit the boat, like, but not like in a way where it was like wham or anything. Like it just lifted
No,
it.
it just
and
kind of like picked
it
it
just
up a
touched
little.
my back, and then it went away. And my passenger was like, I swear, I feel like it was just like saying goodbye. And like, sure enough, it left and went right over to your boat.
Yep.
Like, peace. I was like, thank you, bye. That was amazing. Like, I not that I don't like it, but it's like at some point, it's like, okay, is it ever gonna leave me alone? Or like how involved with my boat is this? Like, is it's stuck for life? But then you can see why I felt that way, because it was over 35 minutes. Like that's a pretty long encounter for a friend. In my opinion, I think that's pretty long for a friendly.
Yeah. Well, and towards the end, I felt like it was getting more like abrupt with its movements and was like rocking your boat around quite a bit because it was posturing so much next to your boat that the pressure wave was making your boat rock pretty hard. And I was like, I would be really nervous right now because like, the whale hasn't touched the boat yet, but like it's moving the boat a lot. And it's like, it almost seemed like it was playing peekaboo with you
on accident, right? Like if the boat rocks, like
I think when its back did touch your boat, the pressure wave of the boat rocking, I think the whale just like created more suction than it anticipated, and it just sucked the boat down on top of it. Like I don't think it pushed up at you. I think the boat came down more than the whale thought it would.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's what I always wondered. Because dude, they do it on rough days.
Where like the day that we had friendlies, it was pretty rough,
right? And it's like, and I've seen that. I've been on the Discovery boat, and it's like we're troughing it. You can't move the boat, so you're kind of at the power of the ocean and the whale. And so you're just rolling back and forth. And I'm like, that's why I always wonder. I'm like, because if they're not touching you for so long and then the boat randomly touches it, like, do they know it's a boat? You know what I mean? They don't know it's a boat. Like, do they think it's a hand? Like, you know what I mean? So
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird to me, but I don't think it is ever aggressive at all. Like, I just think that they're just so curious.
Yeah, I just think the whale was just getting so fired up. Like, it just was having too much fun with you.
I mean, you got to think it's just a big old rubber duck for it. Like it really is.
Yeah, it's a pool toy.
So cool. But then it goes to you guys.
Yeah.
And then so it's funny. Kate and I were talking about the perspective. My passenger shot some photos of your boat, and you could see the tail like doing that thing where it would lift the back up and bring the tail up somewhat, like not fully out of the water, but you know what I mean. And then it's like, it looks so different from my boat looking at yours than yours looking down on it. You're like, whoa, on your boat. But from us, it just looks like it's lifting his tail up like so gently, next to your boat.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to see the different perspectives.
Yeah, totally.
And you could see the whale from your boat because you're up high.
Yeah, you could see more
like, for
of
me,
the whole
I
whale.
could just fit like the face of the head of the whale in my eyesight. It takes up a lot of room.
Yeah.
But from you could see a lot more,
Yeah. Yeah, it was friendly with our boat for a while, and then we had another boat come and like take them,
And she stays
basically.
far away. Julia says she's really like keeps her
Yeah.
distance. And so
Yeah.
then it went over to her.
Yeah.
And it spent a while because we were with that breaching whale for a while and she was still with it. And she was like, I gotta get in.
Yeah.
Like my trip's over a long time ago.
Somebody come take these.
And then it finally left. So what's the word, man? Like I just and I think we do this every year. We're like, all of a sudden they start getting friendly around the fall, and
Mhm.
then we're like, it's just like every day almost one boat, and it's not even the same whale. It's like
No.
some boat has some encounter where the whale comes over, is curious for
Yeah.
a second. And I'm not talking where they close approach. That happens on a regular basis all
Yeah.
the time where like there's so many whales around. Not on a regular basis, but it happens very often. And sometimes I think people are like, oh, it's a friendly whale, but it's definitely more of like just a close pass.
Yeah.
But like I think we need to set a term for a friendly whale. Like it has to stay for
Yes.
longer than 5 minutes or
Yes.
something, and be like
I
actively like sit under your boat for a second. You
yeah,
know?
I think there's a couple things that like make it a friendly encounter for me. If it's multiple breath cycles and the whale is still
Yeah.
circling you and approaching you, that could be considered friendly. If it's rough and they continue to approach you from upwind, that's friendly. Like if you're getting blown away and the whale is still coming towards you from the windy side of the boat, like
Like it's
they're
following you.
pursuing you because you're drifting away from the whale and the whale's following you.
Yeah.
If they spy hop next to the boat, I
Yeah.
call that friendly.
That's definitely a curious behavior because they're
Yeah.
looking around.
Yeah. So those things are like what does it for me. Multiple breath cycles where they continue to like come towards you if they're approaching you from upwind multiple times or continue to follow you from upwind, or if they are like spy hopping.
Yeah.
Or if they're upside down.
Or
if
if
they
you're
show
just
you
handshaking the whale.
if they show you their belly or they're spy hopping, then I would consider that friendly. But then it kind of gets tricky because I feel like sometimes with friendly whales, it's about you and the boat. And other times I feel like the boat's just a prop for them.
And they're other like if there's
they're doing something else underneath you and you being there is helpful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like competition groups especially use the boat as a prop. I don't think that they're all of a sudden flirting with the boat during a competition group. I just think they're using the boat.
You know what I think?
For their
not
behaviors.
all whales probably want to be next to boats. Just like not all, like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like there's some whales that like clearly like to be by boats, and there's some whales that like not that they don't want to be by boats, they're just indifferent. Like they probably just don't care.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you, like, think about that whale. It had a bunch of whales with it. Was Vishnu a boy? I think she said it was. I think Kate saw it.
Yeah. We saw its underside.
That changes it. But the thing is like maybe it wants to get the other males away, and it's like they're not, maybe they won't hang around a boat, and they're using you as like a defense thing. Like they're like,
yeah, I mean, I think sometimes that a female will use the boat to help like create a screen and ditch the males. But I also think like maybe you're just like a tack point. You know, like how sailboats tack around an object when they're traveling. Like maybe you're just useful. I don't know.
I don't think I just it's, and you could really make up anything you want about it. Like
Yeah.
we don't have, well, even if we think we know, like, okay, the biggest thing we know is it clearly happens more around times they're leaving to the feeding or breeding grounds, or while they're in the breeding grounds. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's either if you're on a feeding ground, it's more likely to happen in the spring when they first get back, or in the fall when they're getting ready to leave.
And then obviously it happens a lot in like Maui, or like in breeding grounds in Tonga.
Yeah.
Like it happens all over. So there's something about it. They obviously know we're not a humpback. Like it's just so weird. And then I was talking to Kate, like I shut my engine off, but sometimes I don't. It just depends. Well, I like shut off because I just don't, my engine sticks down though. I don't know. It's just weird to me. But I shut it off because also you can hear them better in the videos. If like you don't, although my engine's like next to, you can't hear it if it's like in neutral, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I understand why some bigger boats can't shut their engines off because it's dangerous. Because if your engine doesn't start back up for some odd reason, now you got a passenger full of people that are stuck in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, because I've shut my engine off so many times and they don't come over, and I'm like, when it looks like they're coming over,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I wonder if I would have kept it on, that gave them that, like, they knew where I was, or like, you know what I mean, or like to hear it
Yeah.
better or feel it better or what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I go back and forth about it because especially in the feeding grounds, because the water is not very clear and it tends to
Yeah.
be overcast a lot, I'm more in favor of leaving the engine turned on but in neutral. But in the breeding grounds, the water is super clear and there's like not really any other distractions for the whales. I think turning the engine off is good.
Yeah. I
But
don't
like,
mind turning my engine off, but
yeah.
I also, I just kind of think sometimes they like it. Like, dude, think about gray whales. They,
Mm-hmm.
if you looked at like a 90% of the videos that come out of the lagoons, you'd be like, oh my God, they're running the whales over.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, they just like being by the engine for some odd reason.
Yeah, I don't
Like
know if
they're
they like the bubbles or the warm
warm
water or the
water, or what?
vibration. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I've had
Yeah.
friendly gray whales and they were hanging off the stern
Yep.
for like most of the encounter. And you're like, what do you like it back there? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. So it's truly just,
I also like there tend to be more on wherever the light is. So like you're often like looking at the whale in the glare because I think the whale can see you better on that side of the boat.
oh yeah, I never thought about it
They're
like that.
usually on the sunny side of the boat.
Well,
So
my boat was spinning so much and the whale was spinning so much. I have no
well, and
idea where it was.
that day it was overcast, so I don't think it really mattered. But like on the day where we went out for fun and you and Steve were out with the breaching whale, the whales not only were they on the upwind side, but because we were taking the wind broadside and getting blown down away from them, that's also the sunny side because the
Yeah.
wind was coming from that direction. So there, I think they had a better view of us from there. And then I,
Dude, that is so weird. They're just
yeah,
staring at a big old boat.
yeah,
Two humpbacks.
yeah.
I mean, I 100% know that that whale saw me waving at it. Like, it for sure saw it, but like, does it know what I'm doing? No.
Yeah,
But
so Kate
it saw
has
me.
Kate has a photo or a video where you can see the eye actually like bulging out and looking
Yeah.
up at her. But then that day where it was rough and it was sunny and the whales were on that side, I like put my hand up and waved and their eyes didn't move one time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they kept looking at each other because they were under the boat and would come up kind of separately, or if like they just didn't care that I was like, hey.
Oh, I wish I could just slip into the water and be like, hi, I'm here. Is this what you were looking for?
So I kind of tried to look up the like science behind this. And to be honest, there's not really any science. So if you just Google search like friendly humpback whale encounter, there's like hundreds of thousands of hits of just news articles
Probably
and
like
social
news.
media
Yeah.
posts. But if
People
you
who have
go to Google
encountered it, right?
Scholar, there's nothing for friendly encounters with humpback whales. Like there's no papers. So then I started to kind of like skirt around the subject. I was like, okay, what about brain structure in humpback whales? What about that paper about altruism in humpback whales? What about hormone levels in humpback whales? And even then, like no one's willing to talk about this topic scientifically, which is crazy to me because like you hear researchers say like we've had friendly whales with our research boat. And it's like, well, why is there no data then?
Dude,
So,
I mean, there's whales that like in what is it, like Harvey Bay that have
mhm.
it's like isn't that the place where they have like friendly whales always? It's like I've seen a million. There's like a place where they like let people look into the water or something. I think it's hard. It's one of the places in Australia, but it's like
Yeah,
they always have friendly whales.
yeah. Well, it's a breeding ground there
Yeah,
too.
true,
So,
true, true, true. Sure.
but I mean, what we know about humpback whales, so they are one of the species of cetaceans that have these things in their brain called like spindle neurons or spindle cells. So it's basically this type of brain cell that helps them make connections across their brain in regard to emotion. And it helps them like process information to make quick judgments about social interactions. Animals that have spindle neurons have been like measured to have some level of empathy and like social intelligence. So like we have them, primates have them, and then some species of whales and dolphins have them. So is that why we get friendly encounters with humpback whales a lot? I mean, no one's tried to study it in gray whales, but we do get friendly gray whales pretty often too.
Also, think about how many boats watch whales, and we have to stay 100 yards away, right? Until
Mhm.
they turn to us or like something happens and we just
Yeah.
stay in neutral and chill, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, think about how many boats watch whales, but we never go to them. Like, you don't actively
Yeah.
pursue the whale.
Yeah.
Legally, you're not allowed to, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, I wonder if every once in a while they're like, like what happened? That whale popped up pretty close to me, and then it was like, oh, this boat wants to say what's up.
Mhm.
Finally, like, I've been waiting for this my whole life. And then, spends 35 minutes with me. We're waving at each other. It's blowing bubble. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I kind of do think that, like, it's the same thing with like killer whales. They are a big dolphin, and
Mhm.
there's definitely videos of them bow riding boats
Or wake
and
riding.
ships,
Yeah.
or like, yeah, riding in the wakes of boats and ships
Mhm.
and all sorts of different vessels. But we're supposed to stay 100 yards from them. We never approach them. But common dolphins, which is such a weird thing to me, because technically, I wonder, like, technically that's would be illegal, right? Like, to approach common dolphins with 100 yards, right?
Yeah, I mean the guidelines
But
are
they're
written
not
I think to
endangered,
like
right?
50 yards or something, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So it's such a weird thing, but it's like, anyone knows that if you can sometimes even get within a mile of a dolphin, like,
yeah, it'll come to you.
they're just stampeding right over to you, and they're surrounding your boat, and they're like, let's play, kick it up a
Mhm.
notch and get some
Mhm.
wakes going.
Yeah, cuz they will slow down and like peel away from you if
If
you're
you go
going
slow,
slow. Yeah. And then when you
yeah,
speed up, they all come racing at you
they
again.
come back.
Yeah.
They probably hear the engine, and they're like, oh, I'm getting a ride right now.
Mhm.
Like, they just turned on the roller coaster. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. And that's something I always think about killer whales too, is I think that they would, if we didn't treat them, they are just massive. So we have to treat them differently. I understand that.
Mhm.
But I do think that if we didn't not treat them, not saying like treat them bad or something, but I think that they would bow ride more or ride your wake more if we approached them a little bit differently sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they do it to
Potentially,
ships
yeah.
that are just on their route. Like, there's
Yeah.
videos of them doing it in the Sailor Sea. Like,
Yeah.
they're saying the noise is bad for them, right? But then there's a video from a helicopter filming the
Southern residents.
southern resident killer whales all riding in the wake. Like, so they hate the ship or they love it. You know what I mean? So I don't
Well, and
know.
maybe it's all in context,
Yeah,
like some days they're feeling really playful and they're like, let's go. And then other days they like want to be left alone and people don't leave them
it could be
alone.
annoying because it's just like nonstop, right? Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, I get
So,
it.
and then like you think about like social structure of those animals that we do have more like friendly encounters with. And like some of it fits the mold and some of it doesn't. Like humpback whales, they like teach each other feeding strategies. They sing songs, like they defend other animals from killer whales. Like this seems like a pretty social and flippin' smart animal, right? But then like gray whales, we don't see as much evidence for any of that, but we
We
also
don't
get
even see
friendly
them for
gray
half
whales.
their life. I mean,
Yeah.
we
But
don't
like they
see them
don't
in the
have
feeding grounds.
song. They don't
Yeah.
have, crazy bubble hunting technique strategies that they teach each other. But in the lagoons, like
Well,
they
they
let you
think
pet
about skim
them.
feeding. Think about skim feeding. I don't think all gray whales do that.
No, they definitely don't all do that, but it's not nearly as like a sophisticated hunting technique as like
Yeah,
using bubbles and stuff is.
they're just opportunistic. It's more of an opportunistic hunt. Like, if they see krill, they're just gonna skim it up.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
I don't know. And then
so
like earlier this year, we definitely had fin whales be friendly with our boat. When fin whales have also been documented to have spindle neurons in their brain.
people had blue whales this summer, literally circling their
Oh
boat.
yeah, yeah. That was
Like,
crazy. That
and
footage was
people are
so
like,
cool.
oh, like, but like, it's like, no, that act, like, that's the one thing about social media. And it's like, of course you're gonna post a highlight, and
Yeah.
also people have to understand that they only have, like, you have 3 seconds to show someone something, or they're gonna lose they're gonna scroll
Yeah.
past it, and you're not
Yeah.
gonna be able to show them the amazing clip, right?
The full
So it's like, you have
context.
to show the
Yeah.
part where it's right next to the boat, but if you show the part where it did a big lap, circled, came back to the boat, rolled on its side, then did it again 6 more times, like, no, you're only gonna show the part where it comes to the boat, because you only
Yeah.
have so much to show. You only have so much
Yes.
attention. So,
Yes.
or yeah, and so that's something that happens a lot on social media, but like, these encounters do happen,
Yes.
and it's just like, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So thinking about the hormones, the one thing that I did find with humpback whales is there was some evidence of like, and it makes sense, like their testosterone levels, especially in males, really start to increase in September. reach their peak in the middle of breeding season and then taper off in the spring. So we had a lot of whales starting in about September either get curious with boats or get really fired up when the killer whales were around. And I think that just like those hormones just start raging and they're just like, so they're on such a hair trigger that like any little thing, like a sea lion being annoying, killer whales, like multiple groups of whales passing each other. That's all it takes to get some of these whales like just on fire this time of year. Like they just have a lot of emotions and their hormones are out of control. Like with the two that all of a sudden rolled over next to the boat.
I hate sea lions.
There's a killer whale. I need to roll over next to this boat. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, I don't know. Whales, and I saw my pastor yesterday. I was like, we just don't, because so then we had the breacher, right? We talked about this. The whale's just breaching like crazy. Then it's peck slapping.
Yes.
Long enough for a lot of boats to come by, say hi, and go back home. Like it was just a little goodbye for some of the trips. Yeah. Now my pastor asked me, do you know why? Like, it's a very common question. Like, why do you think it's breaching? It's like, you really could just make up whatever you want.
You can say anything you want.
You'd be like, oh, it's because the air tastes good today. Like, it doesn't matter because you can't prove it anyways.
Yeah.
My guess is as good as yours.
I mean, my favorite thing to see is if you have two whales traveling and only one of them is like losing its marbles. Because you're like, well, what is the other whale doing?
Yeah, like that night with my wife and you. Like,
yeah. Well, that one whale started it, and then the other whale took it over for the last 20 minutes.
Another one was like, whoa, dude, I was just joking, bro. And then it's like, he just kept going and going.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had in the afternoon one day, it was blowing southwest like pretty quickly, like it came on. And so a lot of whales kind of got active. I feel like when the wind comes on really fast, then the whales get active more. Yeah. That's when that wind rule kind of applies. But if it's been windy for days, like they don't care. But if it all of a sudden gets windy after it's been calm, then they're kind of like, woo, let's go. But this one whale breached and head slapped and tail slapped for probably a half hour. And the other whale only came up every 5 or 6 minutes.
Lot, right?
Yeah, it didn't come up very much. Took a couple breaths and went back down and was just so calm. It tail slapped one time during that whole 30-minute encounter. And it's like, is that just your emotional support whale? No, like, what's going on here?
It might not be play. Like, right? The humpback literally could just be itchy and he just thinks like, oh, my friend's like, imagine the roof of your mouth itches. Like, and you're just sitting there going like, right? It's like, your friend's just like, well, it's just normal to see someone doing that because they're having allergies. Yeah. Like maybe this humpback is just having allergies, or like it's barnacles growing in his armpit, or like, you know what I mean? He's just pissed. Like,
I mean, or maybe they're doing something to like get each other fired up below the surface and the other one's just not active at the surface.
Yeah.
But maybe under the water, it's going like, neener, 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 you know, like messing with it.
That's what I was telling her with those whales before the whale got friendly, is they're all like, you know, rolling on their sides really quickly and fast-paced dives with no flukes and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, but underwater, dude, they're slapping the shit out of each other.
Yeah, like competition groups, they're like bashing into each other. And even when those friendlies that we had the other day, when it was 2 and then it turned into 4, you could see them pushing on each other, like at the surface and just below the surface. Like they were definitely touching each other. And one of them, its back, its skin was all like, you could tell it was freshly scraped from another whale.
Whales are awesome. Long story short, no big deal.
And no one knows why.
Why they're awesome?
Yeah. No one knows why they're awesome.
Because humpback whales have echolocation. I'm coming out right now. I know it. They're gonna find out, and they're gonna be like, oh, this whole time, no wonder why they could find food 6 miles away. Like there's something other than hearing. I do think the shape of their head and stuff helps them accentuate their hearing. I don't know if you can call that such a perfect. Like I was look at my video I posted yesterday. Like the rostrum, like you know all their tubercles, like they're perfectly. And then right down the middle, something's going on there, and nobody's. I mean, that has been talked about before by scientists. Is like it's not true echolocation because they don't have the melon and stuff to produce the sound, and their jawbone is built differently. But like their head is built to hear better in water. Yeah, but dude, you're not hearing anchovies. What we aren't, but they might be. I mean, they're built for that. Honestly,
I think it's too hard for us to comprehend because our ears are made for air. Their
Well,
ears
I
are made
yelled
for
and it's
water.
super cool. I said, "Hey!" Maybe it could hear my freaking me saying, "Oh my god, your
No,
head is big."
I'm sure they could hear us talking. And like, I don't ever see humpbacks really get fired up directly from people yelling on the boat, but I do see killer whales get fired up
When
if
everybody's
someone's
yelling.
yelling on the boat. Like
That's because
Liner,
killer whales actually make people get crazily fired up.
like Liner one time,
Not even
there
a
was a
word,
gray whale
crazily.
hunt right in front of the harbor. And of course, so everybody that had a boat went out there to look at it. And this dive boat had a bunch of people on it who had never really seen a whale before. And Liner made a
Oh, I
close
was
pass.
there.
Yeah.
I was there.
And they remember they all hooping and hollering. And so
Yes.
he went back and forth under the boat a couple times.
Yes.
And it definitely seemed like a reaction to the people.
Were we at Discovery, or were we at the other place?
The other place.
Yeah, it was like my first month or so, and we had killer whales a lot that in 2016. And I remember that dive boat, and it was like a class or school on there.
Yeah.
They were all sitting around the front holding onto the rail.
Yeah. It was a bunch of adults. They were just so excited.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought it was like a college class or a college dive thing.
I think it was just a dive boat that was like, oh, sweet, they're right here. And yeah, I do think that he kept going back and forth under the boat because they were so excited. He was like messing with them.
It's so funny because like people have the best humpback day, and they're like, well, we'll have to be back. We'll be back for some killer whales. And I'm like, dude, just love the humpback with all your heart. It's time to give up on those, I was like, they're the best, worst whale, man. I'm like, you don't know until you see the 39 whatevers the other day.
Oh, God.
And they're like brutal. A mile left, a mile right. You know, like you see a male 10 miles away and you're like, is that them now? And then it's like, no, they're just spread out from here to Point Pinos.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that sighting? So we saw part of the group. The other part of the group was off Cannery Row, right? 10 miles or so apart. Well, like 2 or 3 days later, they were in Morro Bay.
No, what? I thought Frosty was in Morro Bay.
So were the 39s. The 39s were there, and then the 216s were there.
Well, that's where they were headed, was south, so.
Yeah. It's just interesting that like another company saw them not that long after.
It's funny because it wouldn't have been odd to like have after yesterday, like after the friendly, after the breaching, to just randomly have killer whale show up. Because like I feel like sometimes days where you're like, there's no effing way it can get better than this.
Yeah.
And then it's like, boom, Rizzo hunt. And you're like, what? All right. Well, I feel like is this a long episode?
Yes.
Oh my God. If people made it this far, you're a legend.
Thanks for listening to us rant about, our theories, because there's no science to back us up right now.
And when the paper comes out about some sort of echolocation, they might change the name on it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's been patented by the dolphins. But if it comes out, just know I called it first. It's been trademarked by the dolphins.
Oh my God. Echolocation's our term. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening this far. I hope someday that you all get to experience a friendly encounter with a whale that is of the whale's choosing, because it's pretty amazing when the whale picks you to come hang out with.
Super amazing.
So, secret whale of the week.
Humpback.
Vishnu.
Just keep it plain. Vishnu.
There we go. Vishnu. That's our secret whale of the week. All right. Thanks everyone for sticking with us through this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.